I had a quick question actually. I think when I first started looking into or reading, I actually met you at Ontaba, or saw you at Ontaba, and that's when I started to look at ACT. The first piece was really like, how does this fit into my scope of practice? And I feel like you've done a good job at how does it fit into the scope of practice and disseminating that and attaching it to the task list and how we could use it. And now I feel like my next hurdle really is the scope of competence. How do I get those competence skills to start using these with clients, and especially in an area within my organization or even where I live, not a lot of ACT experts that I could kind of go to, ask questions, get mentorship, and if you could have any suggestions related to building those competency skills.
I think it's a problem that you go to a ACT boot camp, you spend $500 or $600 just on the tuition, but then you have to fly to get there, have a hotel room, pay for meals while you're there, maybe get somebody to cover your shifts at work, and you get done with a 4-day boot camp experience saying, this is amazing, I love it. I don't think I can use this just yet. I need more training. Oh, darn. We've been doing ACT boot camps for a while before we started doing the ACT boot camps for behavior analysts. And we've been doing the ACT boot camps for behavior analysts pretty much the same way we've done the other ACT boot camps, which is you got a panel of experts who each take a day and each of us show you how we've done it. And you leave at the end saying, okay, that's how he does it, that's what she does it that way, they do it that way, I don't know how I'm going to do it. And so in my view, that's been awesome, and we need to do more. When I came up to Toronto to do an ACT boot camp, that was the first time in North America that we did one comprehensive model. We gave you one comprehensive model over the course of 4 days. Alyssa Wilson, Jonathan Tarbox, myself, we kind of put together a way of doing ACT. But at the end of that, we hope that you would feel a little bit more confident to go out and start trying stuff. I had done it once before in Israel before that. The bottom line, though, is that even after a boot camp, you're still on wobbly legs. And so you're going to need to get consultation. You're going to need to work with other people to refine your skills so that you truly are competent. Where you get that consultation, can you work with psychologists who are not behavior analysts? I think if the psychologists are really well trained in ACT, then they have behavior analysis baked into their DNA. They are behavior analytic, not to the extent or not in the way that you are and that you will need to be. So you may need to press them to say things like, how can I turn this into a practice that somebody can show me that they've done and that I can measure, and help me. And you may have to remind them, look, the anxiety stuff that you're focused on is stuff that I'm interested in, because clearly this staff member that I'm working with is anxious and that's getting in the way, but that's not what I'm paid to help this person. I'm not in it to change their anxiety. I'm in it to change their relationship with their anxiety. The thing that I'm paid to help them with is making sure that they get their reports in on time and that they are graphing on a daily basis and that they are collecting data in the moment that behavior is happening, not after the session ends. Those are the issues that they're having for which I've been called in, and that's how I get my paycheck. So you may need to remind the psychologists you're getting consultation with if you go that route. And the alternative is that you get together with any one of a number of people that are out there doing work with applied behavior analysts and who are BCBAs themselves. So there's people like Evelyn Gould, Scott Hurst, Louisa Cannon, Denisha Gingles, a number of different people who are out there doing these kinds of consultation groups or individual consultation work. I do work through Praxis and through my own company as well. And I'll take groups of people. I generally don't like to work with one single individual person. 2 people is acceptable. A group of people is better for me. And I do a couple of different things. One is a course where we walk you through the basics and get you doing ACT functional analysis the way a applied behavior analysis understands that term. You do a descriptive functional assessment procedure, and you do a analog functional analysis procedure, for which we are doing a ton of studies right now. Celia is involved in that group that is doing some research on the way to do ACT functional analysis as we know functional analysis to be, so that you develop an ACT intervention that is targeted as it needs to be, so that it is efficient and not just effective. So you're not just throwing all the ACT stuff at your clients, but you're throwing exactly what that person needs in order to jumpstart their behavior, so that their behavior comes under the control of the contingencies of reinforcement. Connections, I don't remember what their full title is, but Connections does a lot of stuff with me, and Praxis does a lot of stuff with me. The other kind of group that I offer is an ACT practicum. You've had some basic ACT training. You went to an AIM training, or you went to one of my trainings or somebody else's trainings, and you're feeling like your legs are a little bit too wobbly for you to stand up. That's when it's good to get a practicum situation together, where you're bringing a case to the group. The group is asking you questions. The group is offering you suggestions. And then I kind of sum it up and then put together some role play experiences for us to try out a skill. And I leave you with homework that you practice over the week with that client, and you come and report back afterwards to say, this is what worked, this is where I had difficulty, and can you help me move forward from here? In the end, ultimately, how you develop scope of competence is by putting one foot in front of the other. You can't learn ACT by talking about it. And you won't get good at it just by doing role plays. Ultimately, you need to be willing to be uncomfortable, trying something that you know you're not an expert at. Here's where I think it's particularly challenging. In grad school, you learned how to be professional fix-its. You go out there and you fix it. You're the expert in the room. You're the person with a plan. And you learn that from your supervisors, you learn it from their supervisors, and it's a way that we walk into the room. It's a way that we present ourselves. It's very professional, and it gets us into trouble too. It gets us into trouble because people look at us and say, you behavior analyst, you're so arrogant. You think you know it all. What, you never have problems of your own? And we're trained to say, yes, but this is about you. Well, that just leaves people feeling cold. But here is an approach that gives you the tools with which to walk into the room and say, I want to understand your experience. I'm never going to fully understand it, but it's useful for me to just hear it from you. I don't know if I have an answer. In fact, maybe I know that I don't. I have the tools to work on building one with you. And would it be okay with you is if I stumbled my way through helping you come up with a solution will work for you? That's a pretty humble way to go about things that you didn't learn in grad school. And it's a way to go about offering assistance that isn't your plan, it's their plan. Again, a long-winded answer to your question, but I hope that that kind of like puts together a way of dealing with this issue of scope of competence. You need to get some training, and you need to just go out there and be willing to make mistakes. I think it's really good to be able to, when you've made a mistake, to say, it didn't work so well. Let me try it again in a slightly different way. Give me a moment to compose myself because I'm feeling a little nervous right now. And take your moment. There are clients that will think that's really weird, especially given their history with behavior analysts. And you can just say, I know this is going to seem really weird to you, but I'm not your average behavior analyst.
Thank you.
You know, Tom, I'm struck by, we actually just met with OBM, and their answer on some of that stuff was not as different as what you just said either. You know, they talked a lot about going out there and putting yourself out there and making mistakes and accepting that you've made mistakes and, you know, working for free. And, you know, so I feel like I don't think you're alone in that perspective. And I don't know if that helps.